Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to locate a very specific sensation in your body. It's a physical sensation. It usually lives right in the pit of your stomach, or maybe it's a tightness in your chest. It's that heavy, cold dread you feel
Hmm.
when if absolute certainty that you have to talk to someone, and with equal certainty that it is going to go horribly, terribly wrong.
It is the universal human experience of impending doom.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's that moment where you're staring at the phone, or maybe you're standing outside a conference room door and you are just, running through the simulations in your head.
Mm.
Maybe you need to ask for a raise and you're convinced your boss is going to laugh at you.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to tell your mother-in-law that actually, no, she can't stay for a month.
Oh, that's a big one.
A huge one.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the really heavy stuff, ending a marriage, firing an employee, confronting a neighbor about their dog that, barks at 3 in the morning.
And usually in that moment of dread, we feel like we are trapped between two impossible choices. It feels like a binary world. Totally.
Choice A, we avoid. We say nothing. We just swallow the anger, we smile, and we feel taken advantage of. We let the resentment just sort of rot us from the inside out.
Which feels safe in the moment, but it's terrible in the long run.
Correct. And then there's choice B, we confront, we march in there, we say what we think, and we risk a total explosion.
Right.
We risk rejection. We risk being seen as the bad guy. We risk hurting someone we actually love. So we waffle. We procrastinate. We lose sleep.
I feel like I've lived half my life in that waffle state, just complete paralysis. And that brings us to the book we are diving into today. It is essentially the Bible on this specific type of paralysis.
It really is.
It's called Difficult Conversations: How to Discuss What Matters Most. It was written by Douglas Stone, Bruce Patton, and Sheila Heen. And right out of the gate, they offer this metaphor that I think just perfectly captures why we freeze up. They say that in these situations, there is no such thing as a diplomatic hand grenade.
I love that image. It's so visceral, isn't it?
Right.
It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they're saying is, you can coat this grenade in sugar. You can wrap it in a nice bow, you can throw it gently, or you can chuck it as hard as you can.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Once you pull the pin and toss it, it's going to explode. It is going to cause damage. And I think that's the fear.
Yeah.
We are walking around holding these live grenades, terrified to let go.
And what's vital to understand here is the pedigree of this advice. This book isn't just someone's opinion on how to be nice. This comes out of the Harvard Negotiation Project.
Right.
These authors have spent 15, 20 years working on the highest stakes conversations imaginable. We're talking about international peace treaties, hostage negotiations, massive corporate mergers where billions and billions of dollars are on the line.
So these are people who negotiate with literal terrorists and warlords.
Exactly. And the fascinating, almost humbling discovery they made is that the structure of a conversation between two warring nations isn't all that different from the structure of an argument between a husband and wife about who was supposed to pick up the dry cleaning.
No way.
The stakes are different, sure, but the underlying DNA of the conflict, it's identical.
That is wild.
Yeah.
It makes me feel slightly better about my dry cleaning arguments, knowing they have geopolitical complexity.
Well, there you go.
But the mission of this book, and our mission today, is to decode that DNA. Because if we can understand the structure, the hidden machinery of these conversations, we can stop just closing our eyes and throwing grenades.
Precisely. The goal is to move us out of the message delivery business, which is all about, I have a truth and I need to hit you with it, and into what the authors call the learning conversation.
Okay, before we get to the learning part, which sounds very evolved and zen, we have to look at the mess. We have to look at where we go wrong.
You have to.
And to do that, we need a guinea pig. The authors use this recurring case study in the book involving two guys, Jack and Michael. And I want to walk through this because I think every single person listening is going to identify with one of these two.
It's the classic workplace nightmare scenario. It really is.
So here's the setup. Jack is a designer, a creative guy. Michael is his client, but they've been friends for a while, which already blurs the lines.
Always a complication.
Always. Michael calls Jack in a total panic. He says, I have this huge financial brochure. I need it laid out, proofed, and printed by tomorrow afternoon. It is an impossible deadline.
And Jack, being a good friend and a hard worker, he wants to help. He wants to be the hero.
Right. Jack is already swamped with other work, but he thinks, I'll be the hero. He drops everything. He stays up all night. He's drinking coffee. His eyes are bleeding, but he gets it done. He sends the files off the next morning, feeling like he just saved Michael's life.
He's waiting for the parade. He's waiting for the thank you statue to be built in his honor.
Exactly. And instead, he gets a voicemail. And it is not a parade. Michael says, Jack, you really screwed this up. The earnings chart is off. It's a disaster.
Yeah.
This is my biggest client. You have to fix this immediately.
Ouch. Talk about an emotional whiplash. You go from I'm the savior to I'm the villain in 30 seconds.
So Jack calls Michael back. And let's be honest, we know how this conversation goes. I can feel Jack's defensive rage just rising up, telling the story.
Oh, yeah.
Jack says, I'm not the proofreader, Michael. I did you a favor. Michael snaps back. I'm under tremendous pressure here. Are you on the team or not? They go back and forth. Jack eventually caves and says, fine, I'll fix it. But he is seething. He feels abused. He feels unappreciated.
And Michael feels let down. He feels like Jack was unprofessional. He dropped the ball. This is what the authors call a battle of messages.
Battle of messages.
Jack is screaming, I made a sacrifice. Michael is screaming, you made a mistake. They were just shouting their headlines at each other, and nobody's listening.
It's a train wreck. But here's the thing. This feels like a normal argument to me. If I were Jack, I'd feel justified in yelling. So if we put on our X-ray goggles, what is actually happening here? What is the hidden structure that caused this crash?
Okay, so this is the central thesis of the book, and this is the key to everything we're going to talk about. The authors say that no matter what the topic is, whether it's a brochure, a divorce, or a treaty, there are actually 3 difficult conversations happening at the same time.
3 simultaneous conversations.
Yes. There is the what happened conversation, there is the feelings conversation, and there is the identity conversation. And because we don't realize this, we usually make a mess of all 3.
Okay, let's take these apart, piece by piece. Let's start with the what happened conversation. This seems like the easy one. This is the facts. Jack says he's not the proofreader. Michael says the chart is wrong. One of them is right, one of them is wrong. End of story.
That is exactly the trap. That is trap number 1. The authors call this the truth assumption. We go into these talks thinking, I am right, you are wrong, and the entire goal of this conversation is for me to persuade you to admit that I am right.
But I mean, isn't that the point?
Well, the problem is difficult conversations are almost never about facts. They're about conflicting perceptions, interpretations, and values. We think we're arguing about what is true, but we're really arguing about what is important.
But hang on. It's easy to sit here and say, move from certainty to curiosity, but when I'm in the middle of it, I don't feel like I'm making an assumption. I feel like I'm looking at data.
Of course.
If Michael says the chart is wrong, and I know I checked it, or I know that he sent me the wrong file, that's not a story, that's physics, that's reality.
That's exactly where the trap snaps shut. The authors call this the difference between the truth and what we notice. We think we have 100% of the data, but we usually have about 10%.
Okay.
Jack noticed that he stayed up all night. He noticed his fatigue. He noticed his effort. What did Michael notice? Michael noticed his boss screaming at him. Michael noticed the embarrassment of a wrong chart. They are looking at the same event, but they are seeing 2 completely different movies.
So it's not that one is lying. It's that they are selective. Our brains are like filtering for the information that confirms our own story.
Precisely. And we don't even know we're doing it. We have different information because we notice different things, and then we have different interpretations based on our past experiences. The authors use this brilliant analogy here. They say that when we argue, we think we are in the same story, but actually, it's like Princess Leia trying to talk to Huck Finn.
Laughs. Okay, I love that. Break that down for me.
Think about it. Princess Leia is in a story about intergalactic war, high-stakes diplomacy, the fate of the galaxy, and royal duty.
Right, high stakes.
Huck Finn is in a story about a raft on the Mississippi, escaping civilization and personal freedom. If you put them in a room, they wouldn't just disagree on the facts, they would be fundamentally baffled by each other.
They don't even share a common reality.
Not at all. Leia would say, the Empire's attacking, and Huck would say, I'm just trying to catch a catfish. They have totally different priorities and information.
So Jack is in a story called The Heroic Sacrifice of a Good Friend.
Yes.
And Michael's in a story called The Corporate Disaster That Could End My Career.
Precisely. And as long as Jack tries to prove that his movie is the only real movie, they will never, ever get anywhere. The shift, and this is incredibly hard to do in the moment, is to move to the and stance.
The ands dance.
It's not I'm right or you're right, it's I'm right and you're right. It's acknowledging that the world is complex enough to hold both stories at the same time. It's about being curious about their story.
The and stance. So in this case, it would be, I worked really hard and the chart is wrong.
Yes, I felt like I was saving you, and D, you felt like I let you down. Both can be true, but getting there requires giving up the fantasy that there is one single objective truth that vindicates you completely.
That is a hard fantasy to give up. I want to be vindicated. I want the judge to bang the gavel and say, you win.
We all do. But in relationships, winning usually means the relationship loses. Now, that's just the first trap in the what happened conversation. The second trap is even sneakier. It's called the intention invention.
The intention invention.
Yeah.
Okay, is this where we assume we know why the other person did what they did?
Yes. And here is the dark rule of human nature that this uncovers. We judge ourselves by our intentions, but we judge others by their impact on us.
Ooh, say that again. That sounds important.
We judge ourselves by our intentions. I didn't mean to hurt you. I had good reasons. But we judge others by the impact they have on us. If I feel hurt, I assume you intended to hurt me. There's a gap there. We can't see their intentions.
So if you don't return my text and I feel ignored, I assume your intention was to ignore me.
Right.
I don't assume you were busy or your phone died or you're in a meeting. I assume you were a jerk.
Correct. It's the impact-intent conflation, and it's an automatic assumption we make. And the authors use a classic example to illustrate this, the ambulance versus the BMW.
Okay, lay it on me.
Okay, so imagine you were driving down a narrow, one-way street. You were late for a critical meeting. Your job is on the line. Suddenly, a vehicle pulls out in front of you and just stops. Blocks the whole road. You can't get around.
My blood pressure's already spiking. I can feel it.
Now imagine that vehicle is a flashy, expensive BMW convertible. The driver, wearing sunglasses, hops out, leaves the car running, and runs into a coffee shop to grab a latte.
Oh my God. I am leaning on the horn. I am screaming. I am inventing new curse words. I'm thinking you entitled, selfish, arrogant, you know.
Right. You are furious. Why? Because you assume his intention is purely selfish. He doesn't care about you or your time. His latte is more important than your job.
Exactly.
Now, rewind. Same street, same time. You are just as late. The vehicle stops, but this time it's an ambulance. The driver hops out and runs into a house to save someone having a heart attack.
Oh,
You are still blocked. You are going to be just as late. The impact on your life is identical. But how do you feel?
totally different. I'm patient. I'm anxious for the person inside. I might even feel a little virtuous, sitting there waiting. You know, go save a life, hero.
Exactly. The facts didn't change. The delay didn't change. The impact didn't change. The story you told yourself about their intention changed everything.
But here's the problem. In real life, people don't drive around with sirens on their heads.
True.
I can't see their intentions. I can only see the BMW blocking my path. When Michael yells at me, I don't see, oh, he's scared of his boss. I see he's attacking me.
You're absolutely right. We are blind to intentions. We can never know for sure. That's why the authors say we have to disentangle impact and intent. We have to catch ourselves.
So in that moment,
When you feel that flash of anger, you have to say, okay, I know what the impact was. I felt hurt, but I actually have no idea what their intention was. You have to hold your assumption as a hypothesis, not a fact.
so instead of saying, you are trying to control me, which is an accusation about intent, I should say.
Yeah. You state the impact on you, and you ask about their intent. When you check my work 3 times a day, the impact on me is that I feel untrusted and frustrated. I'm wondering what's going on your end, or can you help me understand what's leading you to do that?
That is terrifyingly mature.
Oh.
It turns an accusation into a question.
It does, and it stops the other person from getting defensive because you aren't accusing them of being a villain. You're just sharing your experience and inviting them into a conversation.
Okay, so we have the truth trap and the intention trap. There is one more trap in the what happened conversation, and this is the one I struggle with the most. The blame frame.
Ah, yes. Blame is our favorite pastime. When something goes wrong, the human brain has an immediate, almost reflex need to find the bad person.
Who did this? Whose fault is it?
Right, because if it's your fault, then I am innocent. And if I'm innocent, I don't have to change. Blame looks backward. It focuses on judgment and punishment, and it guarantees that the other person will put up a shield.
But wait, sometimes it is their fault. I mean, come on. If Jack didn't make the typo, none of this would be happening. Isn't saying let's not blame Just a way of letting people off the hook.
That is the most common objection, and it's a fair one. But the authors argue for a crucial shift from blame to contribution. And they are very specific about the difference.
Okay.
Blame is about judgment. It asks, who is the bad guy here? Contribution is about understanding the system. It asks, what did we each do to get into this mess? Think about a baseball game. A pitcher throws a ball and the batter hits a home run. Who caused the home run?
Well, the batter hit it.
Yeah.
But the pitcher threw it. So both.
Exactly. It's an interactive system. You cannot have a home run without a pitch, NED, a swing. Difficult conversations are almost always the result of an interactive system.
Okay.
In the Jack and Michael story, yes, Jack made the typo. That is his contribution. But what was Michael's contribution?
Well, Michael called him at the last minute. Michael didn't clarify who was supposed to proofread. Michael created the panic environment in the first place.
Exactly. It took both of them to create the disaster. If you just blame Jack, you miss the fact that Michael's management style is dangerous. If you just blame Michael, you miss the fact that Jack needs to be more careful. Contribution asks, what did we both do to get here?
It takes two to tango. But I have to play devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
What about when you really are a victim?
Mm-hmm.
What if you get mugged? Are the authors saying, well, you contributed to the mugging by having a wallet? Because that sounds dangerously like victim blaming.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's a crucial distinction. The authors are very clear. Contribution is not moral blame. If you get mugged, the mugger is 100% morally and legally responsible. You are 0% to blame.
Okay, good.
However, in the world of pure cause and effect physics, walking down a dark alley at 2 in the morning contributed to the likelihood of the event. Wearing flashy jewelry contributed. It doesn't make it your fault, but it was part of the system that created the outcome.
Okay, I see the distinction. It's about mechanics, not morality.
Right. And the reason to look for your own contribution isn't to blame yourself, it's to empower yourself. If you say, it's 100% thing fault, you're saying, I am a helpless victim with no agency. But if you can find even 5% of the situation that you contributed to, you have found the 5% that you can change next time. Maybe next time you don't walk down that alley.
That's actually really empowering. It moves you from victim to player.
Exactly. And in relationships, contributions are often subtle. One of the biggest ones is simply avoiding. If you've been annoyed by your partner's messiness for 5 years but never said anything, and then one day you just explode over a sock on the floor, your silence was a contribution to the problem. You trained them that it was okay.
Ouch. Avoiding until now is a contribution. I feel seen, and I don't like it.
Laughs. We all do it. We all contribute by avoiding.
Okay, so that's the what happened conversation. A huge part of the puzzle. We stop arguing about truth, we stop inventing intentions, and we map the contribution system instead of assigning blame. If we did just that, we'd be miles ahead. Miles. But we're not done, because underneath all the facts and the logic, there is a river of emotion.
And this brings us to part 2, the feelings conversation. This is where most of us, especially in a professional setting, try to bail out. We have this idea that feelings are messy, irrational, unprofessional.
Right. Let's stick to the facts, please. Leave your emotions at the door.
Which is impossible. The authors have this beautiful line. Trying to have a difficult conversation without feelings is like staging an opera without the music.
An opera without the music. So you're just standing on stage reading the plot, and now I am sad, and now I die. It's just words.
Right. You get the plot, but you miss the point. The feelings aren't a distraction from the conflict. The feelings are the conflict. In the Jack and Michael story, are they really arguing about a typo on a chart? No. They can fix the chart in 10 minutes. They are arguing because Jack feels used and unappreciated, and Michael feels panicked and let down. If you don't address those feelings, the problem never goes away.
But we are taught to suppress them. I know I am. I think if I start talking about my feelings, I'm going to cry or I'm going to yell and I'll look weak or unprofessional. So I stuff it down.
And what happens when you stuff it down?
I get an ulcer.
You get an ulcer or you leak.
I leak. What do you mean?
Unexpressed feelings never die. They just come out in other ways. They leak out in sarcasm. They leak out in your body language. The eye roll, the heavy sigh, the clipped tone of voice. They leak out in forgetting to do a favor for that person later.
Passive aggression. My specialty.
It's the language of leaked feelings. Or even worse, they burst. You stuff it down, stuff it down, stuff it down, and then someone uses the last of the milk and you scream at them like a maniac. It's the shaken soda bottle effect.
And then you look completely crazy, which is exactly what you were trying to avoid in the first place by being rational.
Precisely. But there is another cost to suppression that people don't realize. It makes it impossible to listen. Think about a time you were really angry at someone, but you were trying to act calm. While they were talking, were you really hearing them?
No,
Hmm.
absolutely not. I was rehearsing my rebuttal. I was screaming in my own head, "You liar! That's not true. I hate you."
Exactly. Your internal voice is so loud that it drowns out their external voice. You physically cannot listen to understand them until you have acknowledged your own feelings, at least to yourself.
So we have to put the feelings on the table.
Yeah.
But how? How do we do that without it turning into, a messy therapy session or a screaming match?
Well, first, the authors say you have to negotiate with your feelings before you even open your mouth.
Negotiate with my feelings.
If
That
you
sounds a
could-
little schizophrenic.
Laughs. It's really just cognitive therapy 101.
Hmm.
We tend to think feelings just happen to us, like the weather. I was struck by anger. But actually, feelings follow thoughts. Our interpretation creates our feeling.
Give me an example of that.
The authors use the shark example. Imagine you are swimming in the ocean. You look down and you see a dark fin cutting through the water towards you. What do you feel?
Terror. Sheer, abject panic. I'm peeing in the wetsuit.
Naturally. Because your thought is, great white shark, I'm going to be eaten. Now imagine you are a marine biologist. You look down, see the same fin, but you recognize it. You think, oh, that's a basking shark. They eat plankton. They are harmless, gentle giants. Now what do you feel?
Curiosity. Relief. Maybe excitement even.
The shark didn't change. The situation didn't change. Your story changed. And because your story about the situation changed, your feelings changed. This is huge for difficult conversations.
Ah, I see.
If you tell yourself the story, Michael is out to get me, he's ungrateful, you will feel anger. If you tell yourself the story, Michael is drowning in stress and is lashing out because he's scared, you might feel sympathy, or at least less rage.
So before I say a word, I need to check my story. I need to ask, is there another way to see this that makes me feel less like punching a wall?
Exactly, but let's say you've done that and you still feel angry or hurt. You have to express it, and the key here is to speak for yourself, not about them.
The classic I feel statements.
Yes, but real ones. A lot of people misuse this. They say, I feel like you are being a jerk.
It's not a feeling. It feels like one to me.
No, you are being a jerk is a judgment. Putting I feel like in front of it is just a disguise for an accusation. A real feeling is I feel hurt, I feel embarrassed, I feel unappreciated.
It's vulnerable. It's much easier to say you're a jerk than I feel hurt.
It is. But judgments provoke counter-arguments. If you say you are rude, I will argue no, I'm not. If you say I feel hurt, I can't argue with that. It's a fact about your internal state. It's unarguable, it disarms the other person, and you should also express the full spectrum. I'm angry, but I also feel guilty and a little worried about our friendship.
Okay, so we've navigated the facts, we've navigated the feelings. But the authors say there is a third conversation, buried even deeper. And this is the one that really rattled me, the identity conversation.
This is the core. This is the nuclear reactor. The identity conversation explains why these talks don't just feel annoying, they feel life-threatening. They feel like an attack on our very sense of self.
It's what they call the identity quake, that physical shaking,
Yeah.
the sweating, the panic.
Yes. In every difficult conversation, there's a subtext. What does this situation say about me? We all have these three core identity questions we ask ourselves. 1, am I competent? 2, am I a good person? And 3, am I worthy of love?
Oof. Those are the big ones.
They are the only ones, really. So take the chemist asking for a raise. Her boss says, I can't give you the raise because your performance this year was disappointing. On the surface, that's a money conversation. But underneath, the chemist hears, you are not competent.
And if her entire identity is built on being the smart one, the achiever, that just destroys her. It rocks her to her core.
Exactly. It's not a feedback session anymore. It's an identity crisis. She starts sweating. She gets dizzy. That is the quake. Or take the good person identity. If you confront me about a joke I made that offended you, and I pride myself on being a nice, inclusive, good person, I will freak out. I will deny it. I didn't mean it. You're too sensitive. It was just a joke. Why? Because I can't handle the idea that I might have been bad.
This resonates so much. I see this in high achievers all the time. The perfectionists. If you give them one tiny piece of constructive criticism, they collapse.
Yeah.
Because their internal equation is, if I am not perfect, I am garbage.
That is all or nothing thinking, and it is the primary vulnerability in our identity. We see ourselves as heroes or villains, competent or incompetent, lovable or unlovable. There is no middle ground. So we either deny the feedback or we exaggerate it and feel like a total failure.
So how do we stabilize ourselves?
Yeah.
How do we stop the quake when we feel the ground start to shake?
We have to ground our identity. We have to complexify our self-image before the conversation even starts. We have to apply the and stance to ourselves.
So I am a good person, and I sometimes say insensitive things.
Exactly. I am a competent professional, and I made a huge mistake on this one brochure. It's not one or the other, it's both.
That feels healthier,
Mm,
but hard. It means accepting that you are flawed.
it does. But the alternative is to live in this fragile, brittle state. The authors quote an Aikido master, O-sensei, which I think is just beautiful. A student asked him, "Master, you never lose your balance. What is your secret?" And he smiled and said, "I am constantly losing my balance. My skill lies in my ability to regain it."
That's it.
That's the goal, not to be unshakable, but to know that when the quake hits, when your boss yells at you, you can say to yourself, "This hurts, but it doesn't define me. I am still me."
Okay. We have taken this car apart. We have the engine parts all over the garage floor. We know the 3 conversations: what happened, feelings, and identity.
Wow.
Now we have to put it back together and drive it. How do we actually have the conversation? The authors call this creating a learning conversation.
Right. And notice the name. Not a winning conversation, a learning conversation. We are fundamentally changing the goal. We are not entering the room to prove we are right. We are entering the room to figure out why we see things so differently.
But let's be real. Part of me still wants to win. Part of me wants to go in there, crush Michael with logic, have him beg for forgiveness, and walk out in slow motion while things explode behind me.
Laughs. That is the hit and run fantasy. And look, if you want to throw the grenade and run, go for it. But you can't throw the grenade and also have a working relationship on Monday. You have to choose. Do you want to be right or do you want to be effective?
Fine, I want to be effective. So, step 1. How do I start? Because we need to talk is usually the opening line of a horror movie.
It is. Most people start inside their own story. Jack calls Michael and says, "I can't believe you left that voicemail after I stayed up all night for you."
Which immediately puts Michael in a cage. He has to attack back to defend himself.
Exactly. You've triggered his identity quake right from the start. The authors suggest starting from what they call the third story.
The third story. What is that?
Imagine a neutral mediator, a fly on the wall. How would they describe the problem without blaming anyone? They wouldn't say, "Jack messed up" or "Michael is ungrateful."
Okay.
They would say, "Jack and Michael have a disconnect regarding the expectations for this project," or "Jack and Michael have different views on what happened here." It describes the gap between you.
It sounds a bit clinical, a little robotic.
It can be, but you make it warm. You say, "Michael, it seems like you and I have very different ideas about how this project was supposed to go. I want to understand what you're seeing and share what I'm seeing so we can figure this out together."
Okay, that's disarming. You aren't attacking him, you're inviting him to solve a puzzle with you.
Exactly. You are putting the problem on the table between you instead of hitting him with it.
So, step 2, we're talking. Now comes the hard part, listening. And I don't mean the nodding while planning my grocery list kind of listening.
The authors call this listening from the inside out. It's about authenticity. If you use those active listening tricks, so what I hear you saying is, "But you're actually seething with rage, people know. It feels patronizing."
It feels like a technique you learned in a workshop.
Right. The biggest barrier to listening is that internal voice we talked about. The one screaming, "He's wrong, he's a liar," the authors say. Don't try to shut that voice off. You can't. Instead, turn it up.
Turn it up. That seems counterintuitive.
Acknowledge it. Say to yourself, "I am feeling incredibly defensive right now. My internal voice is screaming that this is unfair. I really want to interrupt." Once you acknowledge it, you can negotiate with it.
Yeah.
You can say, "Okay, brain, I hear you. We will get our turn. But right now, my job is to be a detective. I need to understand his story to make my case effectively later."
And what does the detective do?
You use inquiry. You ask questions that actually seek information, not questions that are traps. A bad question is, "Don't you think you were being rude?" That's a cross-examination. A good question is, "Help me understand what was going on for you when you said that." Then you paraphrase. Let me see if I've got this right. "You were panicked because the client was threatening to fire you and you felt like I'd let you down." This confirms you were listening. But the most powerful tool, the nuclear weapon of peace, really is acknowledgement.
Tell me about acknowledgement. How is it different from agreeing?
Great question. Before anyone can move to problem solving, they need to feel heard. They need their feelings validated. And here's the key. You can acknowledge their feelings without agreeing with their facts or their conclusions.
Give me an example of that.
You can say, wow, it sounds like you were incredibly stressed and disappointed when you saw that error. You are acknowledging his feelings. You are not saying, I was wrong to make the error, or you were right to be disappointed in me.
That is a huge distinction. I always feel like if I show empathy, I'm admitting guilt.
That's the fear we all have. But empathy is not a confession. It's just connection. And once Michael feels heard, yes, I was stressed, his balloon of anger deflates. The energy in the room shifts completely.
Okay, step 3. He's deflated. Now I get to tell my side.
Yeah.
How do I do it without re-triggering the whole fight?
You speak for yourself. You share your story as your story, not as the truth. And you use what the authors call the me, me, and.
The me need.
Connect two complex things about your own experience. I know the chart was wrong, and I worked incredibly hard to get it done for you. I want to be a good friend, and I felt hurt and confused by your voicemail.
It's back to that complexity again.
Yeah.
Embracing the and.
Yes, and be clear about your data and your interpretation. When you left that voicemail with that tone, I interpreted that as you thinking, I don't care about my work and I felt unappreciated, not you are ungrateful.
Step 4 is problem solving. But what if it goes off the rails? What if Michael just keeps interrupting me? What if he attacks me again?
Then you have to reframe. This is like emotional Aikido. You take whatever nasty thing they say and you translate it into one of the 3 conversations. If he says, you did this on purpose to screw me, that's an accusation about your intentions.
All right.
You reframe it. You say, I can see you're really upset about the impact this had. It definitely wasn't my intention, but I want to understand more about how it impacted you. You just move the conversation from intent to impact.
And if he keeps interrupting,
You name the dynamic. You make the conversation about the conversation. You pause and say, Michael, I really want to solve this, but I notice that every time I start to speak, you cut me off. It's making it hard for me to share my thoughts, and I'm starting to feel frustrated.
that is brave. It stops the action and puts a spotlight on the process.
It resets the rules of engagement.
Okay, let's bring this home. We've done the theory. I want to see the movie remake. We saw the train wreck version of Jack and Michael. Walk us through the deep dive approved version. Jack gets the voicemail. He's furious, but he takes a moment. He calls Michael back. Go.
Okay. Jack takes a breath. He grounds his identity. I am a good designer who made a mistake. This doesn't make me incompetent. He checks his purpose. My goal is not to punish him. My goal is to understand and fix this. He calls. Jack says, Hi, Michael. I got your message. It sounds like we have a real disconnect here. From your perspective, it's a disaster, and from my side, I'm feeling really confused because I thought I was helping you out. I want to figure out what happened. That's the third story.
Michael says, it is a disaster. The chart is wrong. The client is going to kill me. He's still hot.
Jack listens. He doesn't defend yet. Jack says, Wow, I didn't realize the client was putting that much pressure on you. It sounds like you're in a really tough spot.
That's acknowledgement.
Michael sighs. The anger drops a little. Yeah, they've been writing me all week. I'm just at my limit. Jack says, I hear that. Okay, can you tell me more about the error? Where is it? Michael explains the transposed number. Jack says, Okay, I see it. You're right. That number is wrong. Yeah. Now Jack shares his story. I definitely missed that, and I'm sorry. From my end, I think part of the problem was the incredible rush. When you gave me the files and said go ahead, I assumed you had proofed them. I should have been clearer that I was just doing the design, not the final proofread of the numbers. That's his contribution.
And what does Michael do?
Michael, feeling heard and not attacked and seeing Jack take ownership of his piece, softens. Michael says, Yeah, I guess I didn't really look at it closely. I was in a panic and just wanted it off my desk. I should have checked. That's his contribution. Jack says, Okay, look, we both played a part in this. I can fix this in 20 minutes. Let's get it to the printer.
It's boring. In a good way. It's undramatic.
Exactly. The drama is gone. They solved the problem. And the friendship is actually stronger because they were honest and figured out the system that failed them.
I love that. Now, before we go, I have to ask the yes but questions, because I know our listeners are thinking them. Question 1, what if I'm the boss? People think this learning conversation stuff sounds weak. If I need to fire someone, do I really need to ask about their feelings?
It's a great question. There is a misconception that learning means consensus or that it's democratic. It does not. If you are the boss, you retain the authority to decide. You can fire the employee.
Okay.
But you can still have a learning conversation. You can say, look, the decision has been made that we have to let you go. That's not up for debate. And I want to hear your perspective on what went wrong from your point of view so we can both learn from this experience.
So it doesn't give up power. It just adds dignity and clarity.
Exactly. And frankly, people are much less likely to sue you or badmouth the company if they feel they were heard and treated with respect on the way out.
Question 2. Is this too American? We're talking about I feel statements and deep identity work. Does this fly in cultures where face is everything or where hierarchy is much more rigid?
The authors address this directly. They say the specific words might need to change. In some cultures, telling your boss, I feel hurt by your feedback, is career suicide. You just don't do that.
Right.
But the underlying structure is universal. Every human being on Earth cares about face. That's just the identity conversation by another name. Every human being has intentions that get misunderstood.
So you might not use the therapy language, but you use the principles.
Right, you might not say, let's map our contributions. You might say, how did we get into this mess? It's the same thought process, just with different phrasing that fits the culture.
And the final, dark question. What about the narcissist? What about the bully? The person who will never engage in a good faith learning conversation.
This is where the framework is most liberating, I think. You can't change them. You can't force them to be curious or empathetic. You can only change your contribution to the dynamic.
So what does that look like?
You go through the same process internally. You understand their story, even if their story is I'm perfect and you're trash. You manage your feelings. You ground your identity. And then from that clear-headed place, the and stance helps you make a choice. The choice might be, I understand your perspective and I am setting a rock-hard boundary, or I understand you see it that way and this relationship is no longer healthy for me, so I am leaving. You do it from a place of clarity, not reactive rage.
That is the ultimate liberation. You aren't doing this to fix them. You're doing it to handle yourself and make better choices.
Precisely.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today, from the hand grenade to the third story. If you had to boil all this down for the listener who is sitting in their car right now, staring at their phone, dreading that call, what is the cheat sheet?
Okay, 5 points. 1, shift your goal. Stop trying to win or prove a point. Start trying to learn. Curiosity is the antidote to judgment.
Okay.
2, separate intent from impact. Just because you're hurt doesn't mean they intended to attack you. Ask, don't accuse. 3, map the contribution. Stop looking for the villain. Look for the system you both co-created. What's your piece? 4, feel the feelings. Don't suppress the emotion. It is the problem. Acknowledge it in yourself and then express it cleanly.
And 5.
And 5, ground your identity. Remember O-sensei, you are not perfect, you are not worthless, you are a human who can lose their balance and regain it. This conversation does not define you.
That's the toolkit. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought from the book that really stuck with me. The authors suggest that engaging in difficult conversations isn't a sign that a relationship is broken. It's a sign that it's alive.
Yes, a relationship that can survive the truth is a relationship that can last. If you never fight, if everything is always pleasant, you might just be miles apart emotionally. Wading into the mess, dealing with the grenade, is actually an act of optimism. It's an act of love.
So here's your challenge for this week. Pick one grenade, just one. Maybe it's a small one. Put the pin back in, put it down, and try opening with the third story. Hey, I think we're seeing this differently. Can we talk about it?
It might be the most important conversation you have all year.
Thank you for diving deep with us. Good luck with the hard stuff. We'll see you next time.